So, I'm going to compare Michail Antonio to a car, but a very, very specific car, a very particular car. It's my friend's car, basically, who's got an Alfa Romeo. And it's a very, very nice motor, by the way. But he doesn't drive it all the time. That's because a lot of the time you'll see him and he'll be in the Skoda, basically, and you'll say, where's the Alfa? And he'll say, having some work done. Basically, the Alfa's in bits. Now, when it's working and when it's running, I mean, it's the best car in Tesco's car park. It really, really is. But often, if he ever pops round, not an awful lot recently, to be perfectly honest with you, we won't hear the noise on the front drive. No, we'll hear more the tinny rat-a-tat-tat of the 1.9 TDI diesel Skoda. But it is a lovely, lovely motor. But as something to rely upon, no, not so great. And I did actually take a trip down to go fishing once, and we decided for some unknown reason to take the Alfa. Of course, the Alfa broke down, and we ended up being towed back by the AA. And maybe I've been a little bit harsh on Michail Antonio. See, the thing is here is he'll never get rid of it. He'll never get rid of the Alfa Romeo, and we shouldn't get rid of Michail Antonio, and we absolutely should have given him a brand new contract. He deserved it. He was as responsible for keeping us up as Ogbonna and Souček and Bowen and a lot of the players that I praise relatively regularly. He's also been a bloody good servant for the club. He's had to put up with being played out of position, as you know all of these things. However, as a player for us to rely upon, he is a bit like the Alfa Romeo. And unfortunately, what we can't do is rely on the 1.9 TDI Skoda. We can't build everything around that, if you know what I mean. And unfortunately, I do think it means that we do have to go shopping for a number one striker, for a striker that's going to suit our purposes. Because for too long, we've looked at Michail Antonio, and there's no surprise when he breaks down, because he is injury prone. But the thing is, there's always a case of, well, what happens when his hamstrings go? Which you sort of understand, and you can maybe cater for that, because you can think, well, how often will his hamstrings go during a season? Once or twice? Unfortunately, I think we're at a position with Antonio now where it's not just his hamstrings going. It is actually, is he up to playing 2 games a week? Well, I think the answer to that is no, not for a sustained period. And I think the other issue with that is not just are his hamstrings gone, but is he 100% fit? Because an 80% fit Michail Antonio, and his attitude is so good, he's shown he's more than happy to play when 80% fit, by the way. But an 80% fit Antonio is not doing it. He's not good enough. He's such a thrilling player to watch. He's so aggressive, he's so athletic, he's so powerful that when he is at 80%, I think it's more evident than players who are not as physical as him. You really notice it. When he's not at full sprint, it's obvious. When he's not at full power, it really is obvious. And also, I think you've got to look at the fact that he hasn't played in this position for all of his career. Now, if you take somebody like Teddy Sheringham, for instance. Teddy Sheringham played as a centre forward, or in and around, or as part of a front two, for pretty much most of his career. And Teddy Sheringham was never quick. So actually, I think didn't he play on to his 40s or something like that? What he'd done is he'd honed an awful lot of very nuanced skills of playing up front. He knew how to find the space in the box. He knew how to bring others into play. He'd never relied on any pace. He'd never relied on any power. So he was able just to find the pockets of space, find the correct positions, and just rely on his experience in many respects. Antonio is not going to be like that. He's still learning these new intricacies of playing as a centre forward. And to be fair, I think he's got a lot of really good centre forward instincts. I think if you look at the way, I think the goal against, I I think there were a couple last season, particularly when Bowen crossed it over to him, which I thought were really good. And also, if you look at the one against West Brom this season, that's a striker's goal. Actually, the delivery was bad. Was it? It may even have been Yarmolenko's header down, quite possibly, which went sort of a little bit behind him, and he almost had to do a scissor kick whilst falling over to scoop it into the goal. That was a striker's finish. It absolutely was. So I think he's learning, and had this have been a transformation that had happened in his early 20s, I think we'd have a very, very good player on our hands. We do have a good player on our hands. On his day, one of the top players in the Premier League, and on his day, one of the best strikers. I think he's shown that at some points this season, certainly last season. But on your day is not good enough, because what you need if you've got a striker is to move up to that very top level. You need your 15, 20 goals a season. Now, we're getting by at the moment. Getting by is damning us with faint praise. We're doing better than getting by. But a large number of our goals are coming from midfield. And whilst we got Souček there, you'd normally say you can't rely on goals from midfield. Actually, I would argue that actually you can rely on goals from midfield with Souček. But if you want to move up to that very next level, then you are looking at having one of these top strikers in your team, unless you're someone like Manchester City, who have got so many talented players. Everybody in there, almost everyone in the squad can weigh in with 9 goals. It's happy days, it's not a problem. But even you get Raheem Sterling, Raheem Sterling can score 20 to 30 goals a season, even though technically he's not a striker. You'd say the same with Salah. Salah is, well, I don't know. The last time I looked, and I haven't looked for a couple of weeks, Salah was the leading the charts in the Golden Boot. Just having Antonio intermittently is a bit of a hindrance to us, really, if the person that comes in isn't going to score the goal. So, if Antonio played every single game during a season, I think Antonio could be our 20-goal-a-season striker. I absolutely do. But actually, I think you've got to start looking at how many games he is going to play each season. And I think if you look at 38 Premier League games, I wouldn't be surprised if he misses maybe half, pushing it. I wouldn't be surprised if he misses 15 of those games. And that should be no real surprise to anybody. And if that's true, and I think it may well be, how on earth are we meant to build something around? And the team is built around, I do feel the team is built around Antonio, and certainly the way he plays, which is why I was so keen for us to bring in a striker who plays sort of within that mould in January, as I know so many of you were as well. It's why Sebastian Haller didn't work out. It's why I don't want Diogo Costa and so many of the players that I discussed in, was it yesterday's video? I think it was. So I think that's really important. If you're going to miss somebody for 15 games, then really there's good reason to actually bring in a top striker, not somebody to fill in. Now, it's a little bit, I guess there is a comparison with Harry Kane there, in as much as Harry Kane never, ever plays the whole season without getting injured. He's a little bit injury prone. I think it's slightly different to Antonio, because there always seems to be different injuries with Harry Kane. He's just not... Harry Kane's a fantastic footballer, but you almost feel he has to work very, very hard athletically to be... He's not a finely tuned athlete. He's trying to finish. He's a wonderful footballer, but he's not athletic in that sense. And I think because of that, his body doesn't recover. He gets injured, ankle, knee, different bits and pieces, little toe. It all basically gets injured. Antonio's different. And it was really interesting if you heard when we spoke to Akabusi, when Akabusi spoke about sprinters and twitch muscle, and he would know all about this type of stuff. And that is, these people are designed, if you've got a twitch muscle, if you are a sprinter, and he does remind me a lot, actually. I didn't really think about it. He actually does remind me an awful lot of John Regis. And, it's not an endurance athlete. He's not Souček. He's not someone that's you're going to look at the end and think, my goodness, look at the distance. He's covered a marathon there. No, so we're asking him to do a job that he's not suited for in many respects, which is that heavy workload. So I do think we need to go and bring somebody in. I do think this is vitally important, and that's why the budget is so crucial for this next window. And it's also why I'm a bit gutted. As I say, I'll get over the cup, but it's like I said yesterday, I'll almost have to accept the fact that we're going to spend the money in the summer and get it right. And actually, this situation with Antonio really means we have to get it right. But I want to make sure Moyes does go and get a first choice striker, and whether he's top class, I don't really care what anyone's opinion of whether top class is. I wouldn't have said Soufal was a top class right back. Well, I didn't. I wouldn't have thought Souček was a top-class midfielder. Actually, it's turned out to be quite different. So whether we think they're top-class and brings them in, I don't care. All I care about is when they come in and they get into the team, that it's really important that they suit the system. I don't like the language that Moyes uses. I don't mean he's swearing or anything like that. But when he says cover for Mickey, what's he calling, Mickey or Mikey? One of the two. Anyway, but I need cover. I don't want him to have cover. We don't want cover. We've discussed this before. So actually, yesterday we discussed Adam Armstrong. Yesterday we discussed Ivan Toney. A few of you have said there's no way you're getting Ivan Toney because Brentford are doing well and Brentford are going to get promoted. Well, they may well do, and I do agree. If Brentford got promoted, we probably wouldn't be able to sign Toney. That being said, for the last 3 or 4 seasons now, Brentford look like they're going to get promoted, and they fall at the final hurdle, which I'm not surprised of because they keep selling all their best players. Not that I have any criticism about this at all. In fact, not many people know this. My great uncle was a director of Brentford for at least 10 years. So I know a lot about, well, I know a lot about the club. I knew a lot about the club about 30 years ago. But I've got affection for the club. I don't mean to belittle them or demean them. I think what they're doing is nothing short of sensational. And I think when a lot of the other championship clubs are maybe literally looking down a black hole. We haven't heard much of it at the moment, but how no one's gone to the wall yet, I don't know. At some point, that money's going to run out unless they get fans into those stadiums very, very quickly. The loan from the Premier League is going to run out, and bearing in mind they seem to want the EFL clubs to sell their soul in order to give them money. I can't imagine that there's another lump of money coming their way anytime soon. And let's also remember that was a loan. You know, it wasn't a gift from the Premier League, and I feel it should have been, by the way. But my point is, they have bought and sold so well, Brentford, that they're not at any risk of going under at all, because financially they are extremely healthy. You'd have to say that take parachute payments away, Brentford are head and shoulders above anyone else in the whole EFL, and for that they should be applauded. So that is. It depends how you measure success. That's really, really successful as an economic way to run a club. That's really good. However, I'm just saying, they also might not get promoted. And if they don't, then Toney is going to be up and available. I can't quite shift that Moyes wanted Youssef En-Nesyri. I really can't. I think that's still a goer. And I've had another look at him. In fact, the other day before I did the video on the strikers, I had to look at all of the strikers. And I looked at him again, and it was hard not to think that actually, if David Moyes did bring this player in, if Sevilla did accept whatever it is we'd have to bid, they want 40 million euros. What that is in pound sterling, I don't know. It seems ever changing because of the political landscape. However, if they did accept whatever it might be, our 35 million pound sterling offer, and he came in, I do think it's then really, really hard to drop that guy to the bench, and I don't think he would. And then it takes you back, because if En-Nesyri, or whoever, you can substitute that name for anyone, but Moyes spends 30-odd million pound on a striker. That guy's starting games. He absolutely is. And that really is the best thing that can happen to Michail Antonio, for the Alfa Romeo reasons, of course. And that is that, actually, that would put Antonio on the bench as an impact sub from any one of those front three positions. Because what that does, that keeps all of his quality, you keep all of him fit, he would come on as a sub in almost every game. Why? Because Moyes trusts him. Look, Moyes likes a sub if he can. He made 6 of them in one game the other day, right? He just has to trust the players that are coming on. I think if you did that, and if you did purchase a striker that Moyes really wanted, and that was the fulcrum of the team, then Antonio stays fit, he stays ready, he's not tired, he's not knackered, and it's not just the hamstrings. You're not just dealing with the fact that he won't have hamstrings. What you do is you can manage him. We're always hearing about these individual plans, these individual fitness plans. What you can do is tailor a fitness plan to Antonio to make sure actually he is fit to play 45 minutes every game. 30, 45 minutes every game. Impact sub, absolutely wonderful. It'd still be a hero. It'd still be the right thing to do. If we don't, we may find ourselves for the next 2 or 3 seasons rolling out the old Skoda 1.9 diesel TDI.